ワンピースは実在する。
俺はモンキー D ルフィ、お前らを超えて海賊王になる男だ。
人の夢は終わらねえ。
Welcome
to Nerdville.
We'll never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. We must be cautious.
Hey everyone, I'm Fanfi.
and I'm Turtle. We're going to do a little bit of something different this week for now. We're going to go through a discussion of this chapter and our thoughts. Just a real cool debate about what happened in this final chapter of Kuma's backstory. And probably later on this week, we'll come out with a full chapter review. Hope you enjoy.
Yeah, so I was definitely wrong in our last chapter review, and I thought that, Luffy, that Kuma wouldn't, go to Fuchsia Village.
I told you, man. I told you. It made perfect sense. They had to end it on... I think they wanted to end it on a positive note in a way for Kuma. If you think about it, it's always been, tragedy and everything, and you would think, oh, this is the last tragedy. He doesn't get to see Bonnie anymore.
Yeah.
And he's not able to, in a way, end on a positive note, and then he gets to meet who Nika is in a way. And you'll know instantaneously knowing the tales, right? That's information that we get later on in the chapter that was really interesting, right? What were they talking about again?
They were talking about the basically when Bonnie was remembering the tales of Nika, she asked Kuma why what Nika looked like. He said that they didn't know, but that he was a rubber man, right? And that kind of leads me into also why I thought that he wouldn't go, because if the only reason Kuma would go was if he already had an idea, a thought, right, that Luffy was Nika, right, which is shown in this chapter with the flashback with him talking to Dragon, having already seen Luffy as a kid, right? He saw this kid and Luffy likes to show off his powers, so maybe he actually showed it off or something. But again, it just feels weird because the Gorosei, right, like how would they not know if the Buccaneers do? Like
I feel like I see it the opposite way of you, honestly, on this one. Because the reason I think Kuma went to this island again to see Dragon's son specifically, I think is that he wanted to. It didn't matter if he heard that he had a rubber fruit or anything. I think he wanted to see Dragon's son because it reminded him of his own child. And that's why we get the piece where we get to see why Dragon isn't present, because he believes that a child, and that shows also that he does love his kid, because he does admit that this is the one weakness for a parent is their child, and it's not in a. I think
no, but we knew that he was proud and that he loved him, right? Because we saw it, like he was proud of him, like he saw, he's like, yes, Luffy, now you'll see what the world is truly like, or whatever. Like there was a lot of pride in there. Like he does clearly love his son. It's just the mission takes precedence, right?
And it's just every parent wants a better world for their children, right? So maybe that's how Dragon thinks, right? He needs to make it a better world for his child, and he understands that if he's present and they know about the relationship they have, then it makes everything more complicated for everybody involved, for Luffy, for him.
For sure, but it's again very weird and adds on to the incompetence of the Gorosei, because why would
it's also in contrast.
Do they know?
With Kuma.
Do they know that Garp has a grandson? Like, if he has a grandson, then it's obviously Dragon's son. Right? There's a lot of things that
Luffy is a special case for the Gorosei.
If they know that that Garp has a grandson, right? They know that Garp has a grandson. Then they would immediately assume that it's Dragon's son, right? Or even if they know that Dragon's son was born in that village, right, or whatever. Wouldn't they investigate that place? Like, there's a lot of things that just don't make sense. Like,
I have the answer. I have the answer for you, and everybody can tell. It can tell us who you think has the better point, right? But it's Garp. The reason why it's Garp, that's Garp's territory, and I think the world government does not want to create any more tensions than they need with Garp, because they truly understand that he is a real issue for them. He knows too much. He has too much lever. He's too popular in a way. If something happens to Garp, if they go after Garp and his family, they understand that they're going to have to deal with the wrath, not of only him, but the people. On top of it, we know that Dragon was part of the Marines. So even if they make the assumption, in their mind, going after the son of the revolutionary leader on top of it is not a good idea, because then you would have to
but I mean, they're already going
wars.
after Garp's son. He's the worst criminal in history. He's like the most wanted man alive. That's his title, right? Like Whitebeard's is the strongest man, right? Like Dragons is the most wanted man alive. So they're already going after a Monkey D. You know what I mean? Like
There's a difference. First of all, there's a difference with a child, because Luffy, until he went to the seas, and Garp in a way kind of said it that way, and that's why even in Marineford we saw it. He accepted what was about to happen. He was not happy with it. He was very disgruntled with the situation, but he still let it happen because he gave his grandsons his philosophy, which is you're free to do whatever you want, but I'm not gonna baby you. You're men. You chose that path. I gave you a different option, and you're gonna live with the consequences, right?
No, for sure.
But
I
if
mean,
you
like,
attack them as children, I think that would have been an issue, because they're children at that point. Garp would not stand for that, and certainly not Dragon.
Yeah.
So I think there was too much leverage for them from the Luffy standpoint.
But also there is the question of if the government knew at all if Luffy was, if Luffy existed, I mean, right? If Garp had a grandson. Because he did make, I'm blanking on her name, the bandit leader there, the woman. If he made her raise Luffy, right? Like, like it maybe was for, low-key reasons. He wanted to keep, Luffy's existence a secret, like with Ace in a way. Like he knew that he's Dragon's son and that his son is the worst criminal alive. Maybe they could use him as leverage, right? Maybe Dragon asked Garp to keep Luffy safe and hidden.
He was already taking care of Ace in that way, if you think about it, because they didn't really know about Ace either. So
no, he hid them. He hid him.
And the reason why I'm telling you they probably didn't investigate this island is because it's Garp's hometown, Garp's territory. He's the hero of the people. You just don't go there. It's an island in the East Blue, right? Terrible knowledge for a One Piece YouTuber.
Yeah, East Blue. Yeah, for sure. Sorry, excuse me. I was answering a message. Pardon me, guys.
Fine. So they're just, it's just a small island in the East Blue. There's no reason for them to investigate there, right? And and on top of it, it's a fluid situation. They have to interact with, like the world as it's constructed, and they have all those emperors in the new world that are making moves. Like, they don't have time to spend enough resources, and it's been clear that the Marines are undermanned for the mission they're trying to accomplish. It's shown over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So they don't have time to investigate just a remote island in the East Blue.
I mean, it is cool seeing Luffy train, right, as well. Like seeing the axe, the battle axe, like, which is, one of the coolest moments in pre-time skip when he takes down Arlong. And the funny thing is that he actually says it, right? He's like, I'll save it when I'm against a super strong enemy, and in case someone tries to take my crew away, right? Like Luffy low-key using future sight super early, right? Like I'm just kidding.
But talking about Kuma on Hope, I mean, like, it's kind of sad, the whole thing
Kuma
with Bonnie, like in this chapter. No, but I mean, in this chapter, what's unfortunate is we get to see that Kuma, writes all those letters, but I think most of us saw it coming that Alpha was not going to deliver them, and she's just like ripping them away.
Garcia said it.
I mean, yeah, it's still really sad.
He said it.
Bonnie, she's so sad about this.
Yeah, for sure. But like Garcia said it. He said that there would be no contact from the moment that Bonnie, was in their care. So why would Kuma assume, right, that he would be able to send letters to her? Like, just doesn't really make sense.
I mean, Kuma is naive. He's shown us
Yeah,
over
he
and
is,
over
he's
again that
naive.
he's very naive.
Yeah, especially with that moment, right, when he's talking about the pacifistas with Vegapunk, like, that really showed us that, you know? No. Maybe he just assumed, right, oh, the world government, they're not as bad.
Another thing we see in that little passage is like how it was very smart from the old queen to keep Bonnie's fruit hidden from the government.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what allowed her to be part of this generation afterwards without the government. Like, because I would be surprised, especially early in her voyage, that they wouldn't hunt her down more because they needed still her for that leverage against Kuma as much as possible.
They did.
So that was just really smart. So she could like be that older self, and they couldn't figure out who she really was, even though she didn't really change her name. That's, you know, a bit weird.
Yeah, no, she didn't. Well, it is Jewelry Bonnie. It's not, you know, Bartholomew Bonnie. But I mean, they would know. They would know, right? Like,
I mean, without the agent,
like even
fruit,
Garcia knew. Garcia said, like, we don't need her anymore, right? So he knew that she was Kuma's daughter, right? No, adopted daughter.
Well, maybe they figured it out later on once she was already too powerful. And to be fair, I think Bonnie is way stronger than I ever thought.
Everyone, what do you think? Just have a question that you can answer us in the comments. Do you think that Bonnie's first punch leaving her hometown is more impressive than Luffy's first punch? Because she took out a CP agent. Granted, she's CP8, right? Whatever. And she might not be, you know, top. She's not been one of the strongest CP agents. But arguably, I'd say that, you know, CP agents, they're relative to, like, upper echelon Marines. Not, like, the strongest Marines, right? But, like, not fodder Marines, right? So, is it more impressive to take out a Sea King or a CP agent? Question I ask you guys. Because, honestly, not sure.
I mean, I know my answer to that question.
Yeah,
honestly,
yours is yes.
No, it's more impressive, and the reason why is just simple. She's 9.5 in that moment.
That's true.
She's 9 years
Well,
old.
she was the future destroyer thing, right? There's also the aspect that she was raised by Kuma as a, you know, semi-religious person, right? That believes in Nika. And there's all that thing about willpower in One Piece, right? And maybe willpower has more to do with... I don't think she's using hockey in that moment, huh? But, you know, willpower does have something to do with your strength in One Piece, right? And belief, it's a very strong sentiment. And doing it, having her, you know, use Nika as a template for, you know, thinking what's the strongest thing I can think of, right? Oh, a god, my dad's god, right? Like, there's a lot of will in that strike, right? Like, so... maybe Luffy, when he fought, you know, like, he didn't really fight him. The Sea King, when he knocked him out, like, he didn't put that much effort into it either, right? Like, Bonnie, I think, is pretty much going all out here as well.
I mean, she's 9.5.
Yeah, but she's 9.5, exactly, right? Like, so there's that. I don't know what's more impressive. I'm just putting it out there, right? Like, it's very impressive. And again, like we were saying in the last review, it does seem like Bonnie is much stronger than we thought originally, right? Like, and we were assuming, oh, maybe she got trained by Alpha, but yeah, in context that doesn't really make sense either, because like she's like the person oppressing her, right? So it is like, where does this strength come from? Well, again, she says she trains every day. When she says, the bully asks her, what do you want to do? She says, I want to train, I want us to spar. So she probably does this every day, right? She's honing her skills to become a pirate.
I mean, also the thing about Alpha being, you know, not wanting to train her, there's also a scene in the chapter that's kind of just, you know, just her being mean for no reason. They're giving her fake medication, and they're doing it with a very they were saying sour lemon. I mean, you know, if you're going to give her a placebo, you could have given her something that's actually nice. Yeah. But no, they actually want to make it the most uncomfortable possible situation for her.
Yeah. And I mean, her escaping through the Queen Dowager cover is, again, very obvious, right? Because that's how she that's how she infiltrates Marie-Joie as well, right? So it's cool. And a very funny scene of, you know, the queen thinking that the reverse is true, that since Bonnie looks like an old Queen Dowager, if she dresses up as a kid, it'll just be fine. And That was so funny, man. I mean, there's also what we see with Kuma, right? Intervening in matters involving the revolutionaries to save them while he has his personality, and so that's pretty interesting. It also shows us, it links us with what happens in the story, right? With Thriller Bark and Sabaody, where Kuma intervenes. And now, because of what we saw in the end of the chapter when he was talking to Vegapunk, that he'd have a year after, after the moment they talked, that he still had free will during the pre-time skip era of One Piece, right? Like during Thriller Bark and Sabaody, he still had his free will. And that leads us into what we were discussing when we read the chapter Turtles.
The thing that the chapter reveals is that he would only have free will for a year, but we know that he stayed 2 years protecting the Sunny. And he was probably already towards the end of the year that he had left.
Exactly,
So what I was wondering is it a command that, Vegapunk put in there? Or is it maybe just that they think they could subjugate free will, but there's always a part of you that can control some things, but you have to have a deep, deep, deep desire? And what I'm thinking is that now that we know that Kuma saw Luffy...
goes back to what Vegapunk said as well, right? With desire and the fruits and will and all that, right?
Exactly. Big theme, one of the biggest themes in One Piece. And I'm thinking it was important for Kuma to see Luffy and probably recognize that he might be Nika, so he could have that will. Because I don't see anything else except the fact that he knows and believes that Luffy is the warrior of liberation. And so that would explain why he was so, because even when he helps the Straw Hats, he has a limited free will. Says he has some free will, so it has to be a truly deep desire to help and be there.
Yeah. But it could be, a last request for Vegapunk, right? Like when he came back after having helped Luffy on Thriller Bark and Sabaody, that reinforced his idea, right? That Luffy might be Nika. And he didn't maybe say that to Vegapunk, because even Vegapunk didn't know, right? Until he saw Nika's Gear 5, the Gear 5 form. He didn't know that Luffy was the warrior of liberation. So that means maybe he just asked Vegapunk, like maybe for Dragon in a way, like that was his excuse to protect the Straw Hats, right? As a last request. Like that's the last mission you'll give me, even though I won't really know what I'm doing because I won't have will. It will be one mission that I will follow, right, until its completion, right?
True.
I mean, Bonnie, I love that in the end, like the bullies are part of her crew. the people that used to like harass her mom, right, are part of her crew. But it makes sense. I mean, they've been here helping her out, ever since she was born. So,
and to be fair, also, like, we didn't know that at the time, but she was nearly 10 years old at the time when she left. So they needed like trustworthy adults to be with her in a way and protect her.
And they want her dream to come true too. I think like the fact that they've basically raised her as well. Like and she has been stuck like in one place for so long, right? Like even when she's walking around and she's like, oh, this is the dirt, this is the sun. It's quite heartwarming. Like you really see like she has been living in a cage her whole life, and it was just funny, right? Because the whole thing with her sleeping in the cage with Kuma. But I mean, like, it's just it adds on to the fact that they believe in her and that they want to help her. Because why wouldn't you? Like, this kid that you've been half raising your whole life, who's been sick and kept indoors, finally gets to go on an adventure outside. Like, and again, this is very much.
And she's the child of your best friends.
She's a child of your best friends as well. They were definitely friends regardless of how they felt about Ginny, right? Yeah. But again, it's very much like Yamato, and with who else in One Piece is stuck in a cage until Brook, characters like that who are stuck in one place for so long and are finally liberated too. So it's very familiar with the the backstories in One Piece for kids, right? She definitely has. I don't think she'll join the crew, but she definitely has a Straw Hat backstory vibe.
I mean, it's possible that she becomes an ally because
an ally for sure, yeah.
But I don't think.
No, I don't think she'll join the crew. I was just saying that, like.
No, I don't think she's doing the crew, but I think she could be like Bartolomeo in a way, you know.
Yeah. One of the people in his fleet. I could see that too.
Because if she really believes the things that her dad believes, she will want to follow Luffy some way somehow.
Yeah. If she figures out that Luffy is actually right, the
I don't think she has
to
figure it out because Luffy is who he is. She just needs
a little
she'll
bit of realize that he embodies the the dream of her father, right? Freeing people, helping them, you know. So yeah, that makes sense a lot. And at the end of the chapter, right, with her Nika-ish future, right? That was obviously a reference to Gear 3, which is pretty nice. And it's interesting that the fist is chosen here, right? Like it really looks like one of those shots where Luffy is, you know, beating down on an opponent with Gear 3, which is cool, right? That the fruit managed to replicate that, right? So it really is. It's like it's a powerful fruit when you think about it, right? Like it could do so many things, and the limits of it are because it's not necessarily her own future, right? It's a Nika-ish future. So that's like what happens if you said, "Give me a Kaido-esque future," right? Like, or a Shanks-esque future. Like this. I don't know what the limits of the fruit are, and maybe that has to do with her beliefs and stuff, and why, you know, again, the Nika-ish future worked because she believes in Nika because of what her father said. And again, with what he said about the whole Nika's body being rubbery, like I said previously, really adds on to the incompetence of the Gorosei, man. Like,
I mean,
because I don't see the out now. Is it like, because even if it's Shanks, like Shanks told them that, you know, Luffy, that the Nika fruit is actually the Gomu Gomu no Mi. From what, you know, Kuma says that are been told in the tales of the Buccaneers and all that, a person that they allegedly hate, right? They would know what that would be one of the reasons why they would hate them, right? Because they're spreading tales about Nika, so they would know the tales. So, like, it's there's something inconsistent there that just really itches me the wrong way.
Well, I think. We know that they had him in their possession, and then Shanks took it. And then maybe they were expecting Shanks to do something with it or see somebody with it. And when Luffy started showing up, well, he didn't make too much of a splash until really probably Alabasta, if you think about it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
And by that point, like, things are going pretty fast, and they still have to deal with everything. Like, you would have to divert a lot of resources. They had their shot. If you think about it, they did manage, like, they did take him seriously at Sabaody. They were prepared. Yeah, it just so happens that Kuma was more prepared. And after that, they lost track of them. They meet up again, and then they just kind of were just rolling from island to island to island, and they still have to deal with stuff.
Even at Sabaody, it wasn't them that decided, oh, this kid is dangerous, we gotta take him out. It's Luffy decided to punch out a celestial dragon. Like, that's why they came. They came in the end. So I don't know. I'm starting to understand the people that were, you know, upset when the Gorosei say that, you know, the Luffy's fruit, like the Gomu Gomu no Mi, has been evading us for years. Before I was like, oh, it's probably Shanks and stuff. Now it feels less like the case. That's just what I'm saying. But it is nice, the fact that they say that no one knows what he looks like, though. Adding on to the idea to why, like, Bonnie didn't, like, when she saw his poster, like, she was like, oh, why do you look white in that poster? He was like, oh, it's what I look like when I look completely free. Like, she didn't know that it was Nika because, again, Kuma says it, no one knows what he looked like. So that's interesting, at least.
I think she would have to see him, like, in the pose.
Maybe, yeah, the pose, yeah. And maybe the drums, too. Have to hear the drums, maybe. Because that's a big part of it. Dun, da, dun, dun, da. Like, she knows the beat of the Nika drums. Been singing it her whole life.
She should have heard it, right, when he's fighting Kizaru.
Was she there? when he
Yeah,
was
she was
fighting?
yeah, because they were running together to an objective and got intercepted by Kizaru.
No, because he was fighting in Gear 4 at that point. He only turned to Gear 5 when he broke through the dome. And, you know, there was that scene where he had
she
his
might have
big
been
hand
down
grab.
there. No, she was
Yeah,
downstairs.
I think...
So I believe that this is finally the end of Kuma's backstory. Because we're basically getting towards like when Luffy started his journey. And from that point on, we know about everything that's been happening so far.
Yeah.
And I just don't see, like, maybe they could add something like additional with Bonnie. But I think we have all the information. I think he gave us all the information we need about Bonnie. We know what her mission was for the longest time.
Yeah.
And we know her fruit, and we know how she escaped. And at that point, it's just her journey, right?
Yeah. With I think the only thing that's really missing is understanding why Kuma went berserk on Marijois. Like, he should be, you know, completely obedient at this point, right? His free will is removed.
Well, that's what but that's what we discussed earlier, right? Is that maybe it's not completely removed, because clearly he protected the Straw Hat ship for way longer than he was supposed to, and unless it's a direct, you know, programming thing from Vegapunk, then it just proves that he does still have some shred of free will if he truly believes in something. And in that case, maybe with all the damage he took, he's just in a, you know, rampage mode. And where would he go to?
Or
punish?
It's like what you were saying in our review of, I think it was chapter 1092, 1092 or 93 maybe, when Kuma fought Akainu. You were saying that maybe it's like, you know, base instinct, right? And now with Kuma's backstory, we know that, you know, there's a lot of contempt for Marijois in particular, right? So it would make sense that, you know, at his core, he's just like rage, right? It's just rage incarnate for the thing that he hates the most, right? Maybe that's why he's going berserk in Marijois. So also the fact that is the narrator intervening at the very end, tying in, right, the end or what we believe to be the end of Bonnie's backstory with her becoming a member of the worst generation. They say, like Luffy and the others, her vessel would gain a lot of fame. So this does, as Turtle said, feel like an actual conclusion to this part of the backstory. Maybe we might get like a quarter or something like that of the chapter next time, dedicating to maybe what we were talking about earlier with Kuma. But it's more likely that next chapter, again, we're going to cut back to the events that were happening in chapter 1095 with Garcia asking the Marines to execute Bonnie. So yeah. Also, there's no chapter next week, so yeah, the next One Piece video that we'll do will be the full review, so look out for that.
See you next time.
Peace out.